In Star Wars, Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords, KOTOR 2, Mira stands out as one of the most intriguing characters, combining aspects of both bounty hunter and survivor, while also grappling with themes of loyalty, loss, and the burdens of her past. She is introduced as a former slave who becomes a skilled and independent bounty hunter, playing a key role in the story's unfolding. Mira's journey is one of self-discovery, and her story reveals much about the broader themes of the game, particularly those concerning personal agency, the consequences of violence, and the possibility of redemption. Mira's background is steeped in tragedy. Born on the planet of Nar Shaddaa, a location known for its lawlessness and criminal underworld, Mira's early life was one of hardship. She was enslaved by the Hutts, and it was only through a series of violent and desperate events that she managed to free herself. This experience shaped Mira in profound ways, giving her a deep-seated hatred for those who wield power over others, especially when that power is used for exploitation. This formative trauma is a key aspect of her character, driving much of her actions and motivations throughout the game. Mira's transformation into a bounty hunter is not one that comes easily. Initially, she was not a part of the Mandalorian culture, but through a series of events, she becomes involved with them, which is crucial to her development. The Mandalorians, known for their warrior code and tradition, serve as an interesting juxtaposition to Mira's own experiences. While she is not of Mandalorian heritage, she adopts some aspects of their lifestyle, most notably their fierce independence and combat skills. Her training under the Mandalorians makes her an expert in both ranged and melee combat, a necessary skill set for her career as a bounty hunter. One of the central aspects of Mira's character arc is her relationship with the Exile, the protagonist of the game. Initially, Mira is cold and distant, focused solely on her work as a bounty hunter. She shows little interest in forming deep connections with others, viewing her survival as paramount. However, as the story progresses, Mira becomes more involved with the Exile and the others on the Ebon Hawk. This gradual shift is driven by her experiences and interactions with the crew, particularly the Exile, whom she respects for their strength and determination. Mira's story also brings to the forefront the themes of belonging and identity. Throughout the game, she struggles with finding a place where she can fit in, where she can feel as though her skills and actions are respected. Her time as a bounty hunter is a form of self-exile, one that isolates her from the rest of society, and it is only through her encounters with the Exile and others that she begins to reconcile with her past and her future. Mira's journey is ultimately about understanding herself, not just as a survivor of the cruel underworld, but as someone capable of compassion, trust, and even loyalty. Her role in the story also brings forward an important question about the nature of the Force. Unlike many other characters in the Star Wars universe, Mira does not immediately embrace the Force, nor does she have a strong connection to it. She is a character who is defined by her physical prowess and her practical knowledge, making her stand apart from the more traditionally Force-sensitive characters in the game. While the Exile grapples with the question of whether they should reconnect with the Force, Mira's story suggests that the power to make a difference does not necessarily come from the Force alone. Her decisions are often made with pragmatism, and she views the Force with a healthy dose of skepticism, seeing it as something that does not define one's worth or ability to make a change in the galaxy. Mira's relationship with the Force becomes more complicated as the game progresses, particularly when she is confronted with the possibility of joining the Jedi or continuing her path as a bounty hunter. This tension between the two paths is a key part of her story. The Exile, who serves as a guiding figure for Mira, offers her the opportunity to embrace the ways of the Jedi, but Mira's response is not as simple as just rejecting or accepting this path. Her decision is grounded in the complexities of her past, her feelings about power and control, and her skepticism of organizations that claim to have the answers. As a character, Mira challenges the traditional notions of what it means to be a hero or a villain, as her motivations are driven more by personal freedom and survival than by any grand ideological or religious belief. Her relationship with the other characters aboard the Ebon Hawk also reveals much about her complexity. While she initially appears cold and distant, Mira's interactions with the crew show a different side to her. She gradually becomes close to some of the crew members, particularly those who, like her, have struggled with their own pasts. She shares a particularly strong bond with the Wookiee, Hanhar, though this relationship is also fraught with tension. Hanhar's brutal and vengeful nature stands in stark contrast to Mira's more restrained approach, yet they share a mutual understanding of what it means to live a life shaped by violence and trauma. Their relationship is one of mutual respect, albeit a complicated one, marked by both camaraderie and conflict. Mira's role in KOTOR 2 is also significant because she represents a counterpoint to the more traditional heroic figures in the game. While characters like the Exile, Atan, and the Jedi Masters are all grappling with their connection to the Force, Mira stands as an individual who has learned to survive without relying on mystical powers. Her story is one of resilience, of a person who has carved out a place for herself in a galaxy that is often indifferent to those who struggle in the margins. Her journey reflects the theme of personal agency, showing that one does not need to be a Jedi or Sith to make a difference in the galaxy. Mira's arc also underscores the consequences of violence. Throughout the game, her backstory and choices reflect the brutal realities of a galaxy in constant conflict. While she may not be as deeply entwined with the Sith and Jedi conflict as others, her life as a bounty hunter has forced her to make difficult decisions, often leading to violence. This theme of violence and its impact on the individual is one of the core threads of KOTOR 2, and Mira's character highlights the personal toll that violence takes, not just on those who wield it, but on those who must live with its consequences. Her development over the course of the game speaks to the potential for growth and change. Mira, at the start, is a hardened and cynical character, shaped by a lifetime of violence and loss. However, by the end of the game, she has evolved into someone who is more open to trust, cooperation, and even the possibility of redemption. Her story arc is one of gradual change, and it speaks to the broader themes of the game, particularly the idea that the past does not have to define the future, and that even in a galaxy filled with conflict, there is always room for personal growth and transformation. Ultimately, Mira is a character who embodies the complexities of survival, personal growth, and the search for meaning in a universe filled with turmoil. Her story is one of overcoming the past, challenging preconceived notions about power and identity, and finding a sense of belonging. As a bounty hunter, she is defined by her actions, her independence, and her resilience. But as the story progresses, she becomes more than just a survivor. She becomes a character who learns to navigate the complexities of the galaxy, forming connections with others and, ultimately, understanding that she can shape her own destiny. In many ways, Mira represents the idea that, in the chaotic world of KOTOR 2, the most important thing is not the power one wields, but the choices one makes in the face of overwhelming adversity. Mira's development in Star Wars, Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords is one of the more understated but profound arcs within the game. As a character, she is defined by her struggles with trauma and violence, yet her story is a testament to the potential for growth, redemption, and the exploration of identity beyond external forces like the Sith or Jedi. This exploration becomes particularly significant when viewed through the lens of Mira's relationships with other characters and her own personal journey. At the start of the game, Mira's cold exterior and no-nonsense attitude might suggest that she is merely a mercenary, someone who lives only for herself. However, her backstory offers a much richer portrait. Raised as a slave under the Hutts on Nar Shaddaa, she was exposed early to the underworld's brutality. Her life of servitude instilled a deep aversion to slavery and subjugation, making her averse to those who operate with a sense of entitlement over others. This formative experience plays a central role in her development as a character, helping to explain her distrust of institutions like the Jedi, and her initial reluctance to accept the potential path of redemption that the Exile offers her. As the Exile and the player interact with Mira, it becomes clear that her character is far from one-dimensional. While she seems dismissive of the Force and its ideals early on, her actions reveal a person who has been shaped by her experiences, not just in terms of combat skills, but in her worldview. Her experience as a bounty hunter is one of navigating a harsh galaxy, where alliances shift quickly and trust is a commodity that cannot be given lightly. For Mira, the key to survival has always been her independence. She is no stranger to conflict, and her pragmatic approach to solving problems demonstrates a maturity forged in the crucible of personal loss and betrayal. Yet, despite her tough exterior, Mira has vulnerabilities that make her a more complex character than just a fighter. Her relationship with the exile provides her with a glimpse of the possibility for something beyond mere survival. Through her interactions with the crew of the Ebon Hawk, Mira begins to confront the emotional and psychological scars left by her past. She is forced to question the choices she made along her journey, particularly when it comes to her motivations and the value of loyalty. Mira's relationship with Hanhar, the Wookiee, is one of the more interesting dynamics on the Ebon Hawk. While the two characters are seemingly opposites, Mira is a practical, no-nonsense hunter, while Hanhar is a brutal and vengeful figure. There is an underlying understanding between them. Both have faced violence, loss, and the horrors of living on the margins of society. As a result, their bond is forged in the shared experience of living in a hostile galaxy. However, their relationship is not without tension, as Hanhar's violent tendencies sometimes clash with Mira's more restrained approach. It's a relationship that reveals the nuances of Mira's character. She is capable of great understanding and compassion, but she is also wary of those who might drag her back into the cycle of violence that defined her early life. Throughout the game, Mira's struggles with the nature of the Force and her potential role in the galaxy's ongoing struggle between light and dark are highlighted. While characters like Atan, the Exile, and even Krya are deeply entrenched in the philosophical and metaphysical conflict between the Jedi and the Sith, Mira's journey is more grounded. She is a character who does not view the Force as a necessary path to achieving her goals. This allows for a unique perspective on the events that unfold in the game. Mira, who has fought for everything she has, is cautious of any system that seeks to impose itself upon her, whether it is the Sith, the Jedi, or any other organization that seeks to wield power over others. At the same time, Mira's interaction with the Force is not one of outright rejection. She is, at her core, a person who is still finding her place in a galaxy defined by war and manipulation. As the Exile offers her a chance to join the Jedi, Mira's hesitation underscores the central tension in her character. She has seen the destruction caused by blind faith in ideologies and the consequences of those who allow their power to be defined by something external to themselves. Mira's skepticism of the Force is not an outright denial of its power, but rather a desire to maintain control over her own fate. The thematic exploration of personal agency versus the pull of larger forces plays out in her character arc, making her one of the more intriguing and relatable characters in the game. Mira's narrative is further complicated by the game's central theme of loss. She is a survivor, having been forced to grow up in a hostile environment and endure the loss of those she loved, including the death of her family and the betrayals she encountered as a bounty hunter. Her life has been a constant cycle of loss, but it is also a story of resilience. In her, we see a character who has managed to hold onto her humanity, despite all that she has faced. This is especially important in the context of KOTOR 2, a game where the central narrative revolves around the impact of loss on the characters, particularly the loss of the Force. Mira, like the Exile, must grapple with the notion that loss does not define who they are. Instead, it is how one chooses to move forward that matters. In the larger context of the game's overarching themes, Mira is emblematic of the struggle for self-determination. While other characters in the game wrestle with their connections to the Force or with the choices of the past, Mira's story is one of carving out an identity that is not tied to any institution or grand destiny. She is, in a sense, the embodiment of personal agency. Her decisions are hers alone to make, and while she may be influenced by those around her, it is clear that she will never be defined by anyone else's expectations. This is a quality that makes Mira stand out in a game full of characters who are deeply tied to the fate of the galaxy. She represents the possibility of change without having to rely on mystical powers or grand ideologies. Mira's story in KOTOR 2 is also a reflection of the broader narrative of the game, which deals with themes of choice, consequence, and the cost of power. Unlike the Jedi or Sith, who are often defined by their ability to wield the Force, Mira must rely on her own abilities and instincts. This gives her a sense of agency that is different from the other characters and makes her a compelling addition to the story. As the game progresses, she slowly learns to let go of her past, reconcile with her own vulnerabilities, and begin to understand the deeper complexities of the galaxy around her. Mira's transformation from a hardened bounty hunter to someone who is more willing to trust and connect with others is a reflection of the game's larger themes of redemption and personal growth. Her story is one of overcoming the darkness that once consumed her, finding a new purpose, and ultimately learning that she does not have to be defined by her past actions. It's a journey of self-discovery, one that mirrors the larger struggles of the exile and the rest of the crew aboard the Ebon Hawk. Ultimately, Mira's character arc in KOTOR 2 highlights the importance of personal agency, the impact of violence and trauma, and the potential for growth and change. Her story is a testament to the idea that it is not the powers one wields, but the choices one makes that define a person's worth. Through her struggles, her connections with the crew, and her internal conflict regarding the Force, Mira's journey is one of empowerment and redemption, making her one of the most memorable and compelling characters in the Star Wars universe.